He's back. AD on the radio.
It's you and the senorita. Woofer blowing up the tweeter, cause it's me up in the speaker. Back in the mama seat, top down like a player. And the sound up in your ears, it is the dopest rhyme sayer. Running game like a cheater, I'm balling like Derek Jeter. Complete on the marathon, I mean the very last meter. Competition defeated, cause you're my voice is just sweeter. So come on, follow the leader, plus I got the dopest of sneakers. One day you gotta know, let it just bear with me on your radio. One day you gotta know, let it just bear with AD on your radio.
I haven't made dime one. I haven't made any kind of loot off of this whatsoever, but I discovered something. I love it. I love talk radio. I love being able to get on the air and not have to play Metallica. I love to get on the air and not have to play the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Not that I don't love Metallica and the Chili Peppers, but for me, growing up, the kind of radio that I like to listen to is always the kind of radio that kept me company. There's times, and maybe you get this too, maybe you get this, do you ever have this sort of like mindset where you don't want to go out? You don't want to hang out with friends. You don't want to call someone. You don't want to interact with people. You just want to hang out and be by yourself, but you need a little bit of company. Or maybe you need a little bit of company because you're driving home and you turn on the radio and you hear someone talking. And that's just enough to keep you company. And that's all I ever wanted to do in radio. I wanted to keep people company. I wanted to be part of their lives. I wanted to add value to their lives. I wanted to be a part of a community. And it's not that you don't do that in music radio, but there's just, I don't know, I think there's a greater opportunity to affect positively and change and affect positive, maybe not change lives, but affect lives a little bit more. I feel like I have more of an opportunity to add value to a community, to the listeners' lives when I'm doing this. And that's a really good feeling. That's a really, really good feeling. So, anyways, get this crummy little weekend show at the station no one listens to, and an opportunity comes up, and I was like, okay, all right. They said they're firing this person, and this could be my shot. And they looked at me after I applied for this job. They're like, no, are you kidding me? And the program director of that station straight up told me, he was like, I think you're great. I think you're really awesome. But you know what? The suits upstairs see you as this overgrown kid that looks like he should be skateboarding outside of a 7-Eleven while collecting cans to recycle so he can afford a Slurpee. So, yeah, no, it's just not going to happen. I was like, based on the way I look? And he's like, well, it's just, yeah, it's their perception of you. They're never going to go for it. It's an angry old white man's game. And I was like, I'm white. And they're like, yeah, that's 1 out of 2. Sorry, dude. And I was like, okay. And you know what? It was interesting. For the first time ever, I felt like, wow, I've been X'd out of a job that I'm more than qualified for because of my external experience. I was like, wow, crazy. What must it be like, growing up in a color of skin that you can't control that would X you out of jobs that you're more than qualified for. Like, I can get a haircut and start wearing sweater vests like all the other talk radio hosts do, and I'll be good to go. But, it was an interesting thing. I was just like that, and it made me angry. So what I decided to do was go over everyone's head. So I emailed the Grand Dragons of talk radio at Premiere, and I said, hey, here's a link to my stuff. I think I'm good, but I've been told I'll never work in this arena because I look like this, and I put a picture of me, and if you've never, I don't know, seen me on Twitter or something like that, the description of being an overgrown kid that looks like he should be skateboarding outside of a 7-Eleven is probably not that far off the mark. So I put this picture, I said, I've been told I'll never work in talk radio because I look like this and not like that. And I put a picture of Rush Limbaugh. And immediately, and these are the people that I think work with and syndicate Rush Limbaugh, immediately I got emails back being like, hey, how would you like to have your own show, be on the air? It'll be digital. It'll be on, like, I think at the time it was Extreme Talk on iHeartRadio, and now it's America's Talk, but kind of languishing in somewhat obscure digital territory where we're at the start of something new, and it's very exciting, but nobody really knows what's going on. So as much as it's exciting and it's great to be there at the ground floor of something, it is still the ground floor of something. And for the past couple of years, we've been sort of like, there's been a lot of ears on us. There's been a lot of ears of people going, wow, you're great. we do not have a place for you at our station. But, maybe 5 years, maybe, 6, 7, 8 years when the angry old white guys start dying off, then we'll be ready for someone like you and someone like Funkhauser to do what they do. Fantastic. No one can take away from the fact that you're talented, but no, this is not going to be a thing. It's not going to happen. Don't bother talking to us for another 5 years at least. And it was crazy. It was crazy. Jack Bradshaw, program director of 104.1 Real Radio in Orlando, Florida, heard our stuff, and he was like, hey, this is good. Yeah, we might do this. We were so shocked to even get a maybe, or, yeah, this is an idea that this could work. We were just like, what? Because we've been so used to hearing the, wow, you guys are great. Not in a million years response to everything. And it just, I don't know. It was a real pat on the back from the universe and from Jack Bradshaw to get a, hey, we think this could work. And so, man, we could not. Radio 104.1. We couldn't be more stoked. It's a real, I don't know, it's a small victory, but it is a real milestone for us. And we could not be more happy and excited and privileged to be part of the Real Radio 104.1 lineup.
Let's start the show. Hot 2, hot 3, hot AZ from your radio live and uncut. Tonight, you're cutting loose and having fun. Cause that's my job, and my job's about to get done. Yeah, that's how I'm operating. And I'll thank motherfucker for cooperating. When I say, put your hands up, touch the sky. If you're really feeling really good, then waving from side to side. It's time for a little rebellion. Then Italian in front of you.
iHeartRadio puts the spotlight on The Police. The Police were formed in London in 1977 after the band Curved Air broke up, leaving drummer Stuart Copeland looking to put together his own group. Gordon Sumner, a.k.a. Sting, worked as a teacher and dug ditches, playing in jazz bands on the side. The two met at a jazz club and together with guitarist Henry Padavani formed the Progressive Trio. They played local clubs at first and released their debut single, Fall Out, later in 1977. After working with Andy Summers on a short-lived side band, Strontium 90, Sting and Copeland added him to the Police's lineup. Padavani left the band by the end of 1977, and the group became a trio again, with all three lasting through the band's history. Copeland's brother backed the group's first album, recorded on a tight budget without a manager or a record deal. However, after a label executive heard Roxanne, the Police signed a contract. Outlandish D'Amour was released in 1978 as their debut album and included Roxanne. It didn't become a hit in their native Britain until it was re-released in 1979, though they received lots of publicity when the song Can't Stand Losing You was banned from BBC Radio. All things police, info, music, and more are on iHeartRadio. Keyword The Police.
iHeartRadio goes one-on-one with Bob Seger to discuss how having kids has changed his life.
It made finding time to write a lot more difficult because they're just so much fun to be around, and they love having me around, and you just can't, certain things you got to see, those Little League games and the soccer and my daughter's cheerleading, acting, singing in shows, both of them. It's just stuff you can't miss.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Bob Seger and all your favorite artists.
Like most kids from a privileged white upper-middle-class suburban background, for a significant portion of his childhood, he was pretty convinced he was down. AD on the radio.
Yeah, let's go. Talking that mess, better act like you know. Let's go tonight. Walk away, punk, yeah, bitch. That's right, I know this. You're nothing but a punk, bitch. You're nothing but a punk, bitch. So walk away, yeah.
You know how, well, if you've listened to the show for any length of time, you know how I bang on and on the odd occasion about what I feel is the one cure-all for the vast majority of the ills that plague America, and indeed the world, being education. Education. Not just so you can learn give yourself options of going to college and then get a baller job and then get to earning and break a cycle of poverty or anything like that. I mean, that definitely has its own merits. But education gives a kid a sense of possibility. I had a really, really interesting formative experience once where I saw a beggar by the side of the road. And it was a beggar that I'd see every single day on the way to work. And I don't know what it was. Maybe it was me rebelling against my hippie parents' sort of ethos on life. But I've always had kind of a hard line, get a job. I work, why can't you? Attitude toward people that are asking for the money that I work so hard for in the street. I believe in giving to charity. I believe in doing stuff like that. But ultimately, as much as I do believe that the milk of human kindness and charity and giving toward your fellow man does indeed help make the world go round, my knee-jerk emotional reaction to seeing someone begging in the street is, I work, why don't you? Now, there are all sorts of different permutations of people that would be asking for your money in the street. But the one that changed my attitude toward those people, the one that made me kind of try and think a little harder, examine the situation a little bit closer, turn over a couple more stones looking for the truth of the matter, was, well, there's this one guy, one corner where I would see people begging, specifically one guy, usually a mixture of guys begging on the way to work. And it was right before I got on the highway. And I'd pass this person or a group of people every single day on the way to the radio station and be like, ugh, I work, why don't you? I'm on my way to do something that intruded into my lying around, scratching myself, watching Seinfeld time. Why should I just fork you over what I'm going to go earn? And then one day, on that same corner, I saw a kid begging, 11, 12 years old maybe. And that's when I went, okay, all right, this deserves a little bit more thought than maybe I was giving it. This deserves a little bit more consideration than maybe I was giving it. Because it's one thing to be an adult, but to be a kid as young as the age of 11 or 12 and have it fixed in your head that the way you get money to pay for stuff is to go stand on a corner and hold out your hand. An 11-year-old kid, what shot have they got if that's what they're growing up with? If that's the idea that they have fixed in their mind that to make money you go stand on a corner next to a highway, hold out your hand and hope that someone puts $1 in it. That's a little different than being an adult that makes a decision to live that way. Now, education, like I said, can change a person's circumstances. Education can, well, you get through high school, you can go to college, you can get a different quality of job. Get a different quality of job, you can break a cycle of poverty. But it's more than that. It doesn't have to just be that. Education, I believe, and this is not new or radical thought, but education, I believe, is the cure-all for all that ails America and, in fact, the world, because education can give you a sense of possibility. And I can't think of an instance where this idea that a life of desperation, a life of poverty, and a life of violent crime comes from a lack of basic education. And I'll prove this to you by taking a look at the homicide rate in a city called Baltimore. We'll talk about that a little later on in the show. Right now, though, let's take a look at the events of today in our segment, My Witness News. In no way, shape, or form fair, certainly not balanced. Funkhauser, how are you and what is going on in the world?
It has been a busy news day. I fell asleep and woke back up.
Really? Did you?
Yeah.
Well, you get in like super early now to do...
And then, whoops.
But you get in super early now to do what?
Some rock star made me work. So now I have to get up before anybody else does and do it. How's that for being cryptic? There's a band that people know called Motley Crue. Yeah.
Oh, right.
And there's a dude in it that does a radio show. And I'm part of the dude's crew now.
Ah, you are now part of the Nikki Sixx and the Sixth Sense Radio entourage. He's a really interesting guy. Like, I've heard his radio show, and it's really solid. I almost get angry because I'm never one of those guys to begrudge anybody anything, but Nikki Sixx is sort of like the Tom Brady of entertainment. Nothing to do with underinflated balls. Nikki Sixx is sort of the Tom Brady of entertainment, where, like, Tom Brady, let's be real here, he's dreamy. I've been told by pretty much every female that I've ever met before that Tom Brady is dreamy. Also, inflated or uninflated balls, you can't take away that the guy has more than his fair share of talent when it comes to being able to handle a football and being able to handle a pigskin in a way that's going to generate gazillions of dollars and a certain amount of personal satisfaction for him as he goes through life. It's almost like God, when Tom Brady was being made, was like, oh, I actually have some extra stuff here. You want some more? Here, have some more. Oh, you got talent, the ability to attract a supermodel wife. Have some more, Tom Brady. No, have some more. What's this? I've got more for you. Like, that's Tom Brady. It's just got a little too much good stuff going on. It seems as though, happy circumstance was doled out in an overabundance to Tom Brady when the mold was being made. Now, with Nikki Sixx, I know he's been through his trials and tribulations and all of the above, but, like, all right, here's a guy that clearly knows how to write a song that will ignite the masses. Here's a guy that has been able to fill stadiums full of adoring fans since, like, the late 70s, early 80s, however long Motley Crue's been going. Here's a guy that is a gifted writer. Here's a guy that, and not just a writer of songs, but a writer of the written word. His books are actually a fantastic read. If you haven't checked out that Heroin Diaries book yet, do yourself a favor. Look into it. Like Tom Brady, Nikki Sixx's supply of women has only been, it's been a constant hot and cold running supply of supermodels and Baywatch cast members on tap, which he switches on and off as he wants to over the past 30, 40 years or however long he's been up in the game. And then he comes along and does radio, and I remember the first time I heard Sixth Sense Radio, I was like, hey, this is good. Who is this? I don't recognize this guy's voice. Like, the new radio show in town. I was like, and then I was like, oh, this is 6 a.m. This is This is the Sixth Sense Radio show. Gotcha. Wow. It seems radio is for people that it really is the bottom of the barrel in terms of the entertainment industry. Like, radio really is. And, we're all these warped little studio rats that aren't able to go out into the world and attract people to go to our shows. And therefore, we sit alone in a studio insecurely talking to millions of people at a time in a room that has us being, we talk to millions of people at a time alone in a room because we prefer a place where people can't see us and people can't talk back to us. It's a very specific type that winds up working in radio. And generally speaking, if you want to be in entertainment and you're in radio, it means there's nothing else you can do. So when Nikki Sixx came along and was actually, like, really, really good at radio, I was like, okay, that's enough. But no, man, that's awesome. That show's really, really good.
So I get to do stuff like
new responsibility.
I get to do stuff like this.
The Sixth Sense on iHeartRadio.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so when you guys are sleeping, that's what I'm doing. Happy birthday.
Female reporter and her cameraman were shot and killed on live TV in Virginia yesterday morning. We talked about it at length yesterday. If you missed it, 24-year-old Allison Parker was a reporter for WDBJ, CBS affiliate in Roanoke, Virginia. Yesterday around 6:45, she was doing a live broadcast with her cameraman, 27-year-old Adam Ward. They were interviewing the head of the local Chamber of Commerce when former station employee, 41-year-old Vester Flanagan, walked up and started shooting. He killed both Allison and Adam and shot the woman they were interviewing in the back. It didn't just happen on live TV. Flanagan live tweeted what he was doing. He took a video while he was murdering Allison and Adam and then posted it online. So why did he do it? Turns out Flanagan, like we said, had worked for WDBJ as a reporter a few years earlier under the name Bryce Williams, but he was fired after a year there. He released a manifesto before the shooting and posted some tweets right after. He said he was the victim of discrimination. He's black and gay, and both of his victims are white and straight. He tweeted, quote, Allison made racist comments. They hired her after that. Adam went to HR on me after working with me one time. The news director who fired Flanagan spoke out yesterday, said Flanagan was fired for performance issues, but he refused to leave, and police had to escort him out of the building. He also says they invested the, quote, long series of complaints he made about coworkers, and that, quote, all of these allegations were deemed to be unfounded. We could find no evidence that anyone had racially discriminated against this man. In Flanagan's manifesto, he praised the Columbine High School killers and the Virginia Tech shooter. He also said that he bought his gun 2 days after the murders at the church in South Carolina earlier this year, saying, quote, you want a race war? Bring it then. After he shot Allison and Adam, he took off, but the cops were able to track him using his cell phone. The Virginia State Police caught up with him on Interstate 66 around 11:30 a.m., tried to pull him over. He refused to stop, sped off, crashed into an embankment, then shot and killed himself. Now, there's a lot of chatter going on about this. There's a lot of political posturing on either side of the fence happening with regard to this senseless tragedy perpetrated by someone who is clearly sick. There's issues of race. There's issues of gun control. There's all manner of things going on. And the posturing that has started, like I said, on either side of the political fence, people are awfully quick to the party on this one. And we will not be doing that. If you missed all the details of what happened yesterday, there you go. And as the weeks unfold, maybe we'll weigh in on it a little bit more. But we said our piece yesterday. That was the cliff notes of it. And I personally would find it a little distasteful and disrespectful to the slain employees of WD, BJ, their friends, family, loved ones, coworkers, to use this as any sort of jumping off point for what we're doing in the show today. So today we are going to, having given you the Cliff Notes version of what happened in case you missed it, we are going to launch into our usual show. So thank you so much for hanging out and being part of our radio family. You can join in the conversation, tweet at ADSXE, at Funk FM. If you have any feelings that you want to share about the shooting, well, that's a little different. If there's something that you feel personally, we might get into that, or we might stock that away for when we do feel it's appropriate to talk about it on the show. But for now, it's business as usual as we send our thoughts, prayers, and best wishes out to those that have been affected. All right, Funkhauser. What's going on in these?
Happy news about M&Ms.
Mm-hmm.
The M that's printed on each M&M was originally black.
Oh.
It was changed to white after 4 years.
Yes. Which is why M&M's Hulk Hogan's favorite candy. Go on.
An artist made a digital rendering of the average American male's body compared to those of men in other countries.
Yeah. All right, I want you to think for a second about the average American male. Average.
Okay.
Kind of like try and get a picture in your head of what that guy looks like. I'll give you a moment to sort of create an amalgamation of all the people you know in your mind and kind of try and squash them together and come up with the average American male. How do you think the average American male stacked up compared to people around the rest of the world? But we'll talk about this in just a little bit. At ADSXE, at Funk FM. Let us know what you think.
USA Headline News. I'm Kelly Sloan. WDBJ held a moment of silence today to remember Allison Parker and Adam Ward, the two TV journalists shot dead yesterday by a former co-worker during a live broadcast. Station manager Jeffrey Marks told Fox News the staff is doing their job while grieving.
My greatest concern is about the news team, and they're doing a marvelous job of holding it together, doing the regular broadcast, choking back some emotion, but doing what needs to be done.
Meanwhile, the woman who was interviewed during the shooting, Vicki Gardner, is recovering in the hospital.
I'm told she's doing better. They're prepared to go in and do some more repairs on her abdomen today.
That was Tim Gardner on NBC's Today Show. The killer, Vester Flanagan, posted a video of the killings online before he shot and killed himself. He issued an angry manifesto claiming discrimination and outrage over the June church shootings in Charleston. This is USA Headline News.
Hi, I'm Joan London. When I needed to find senior care for my mom, I really struggled to find the right fit until I found an advisor, someone who had been through this before. That's why I recommend A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. They have experts who will help you ask the right questions and find the right place. Call A Place for Mom today.
To speak with the local senior living advisor, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-469-7591. That's 1-800-469-7591.
A Place for Mom has helped over 200,000 families find the right senior care for their parents, from assisted living to independent living, even Alzheimer's care, and have local advisors that can help explain your options at no cost to you.
To speak with the local senior living advisor, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-469-7591. That's 1-800-469-7591.
Call today.
Stranding. Close but no cigar for Justin Verlander. No hits in 8 innings until the 9th.
Swing the line drive down the left field line. Fair ball! On the line into the corner.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
And Iannetta cruises into second. The first hit of the night for the Angels.
It was a lone hit in the game for the Angels as they got shut out by Verlander. 5-0 was the final. Verlander completed that game, surrendering the lone hit, walking 2, and punching out 9 batters. Hey, football fans, it's time to tailgate. So fire up that grill and put the pregame on in quarterback sacking HD with a Tailgater mobile antenna from Dish. To learn more, visit dish.com/tailgate. Other scores from around the league. Twins have won 6 in a row, beat the Rays 5-3. Blue Jays winning streak is now at 5, thanks to a 12-4 whooping of the Rangers. I'm David Gascon.
iHeartRadio shines the spotlight on Queen.
By the early 1980s, Queen were one of the biggest stadium rock bands in the world, and their performance at 1985's Live Aid is regarded as one of the greatest in rock history. In November 1991, Mercury died of bronchopneumonia. Deacon retired in 1997. Since then, May and Taylor have been frequently performed together, including a collaboration with Paul Rogers, which ended in May 2009. Queen released a total of 18 number 1 albums, 18 number 1 singles. Estimates of their album sales generally range from 200 to 300 million albums, making them one of the world's best-selling music artists. They received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the British phonographic industry in 1990 and were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2001.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Queen coming up.
Thanks for asking, but I'd rather not send you nude pictures. I'm camera shy. I already said no. Under my clothes, I'm a robot. My webcam is broken. I'm worried they'll get passed around school. I have a rash. I have nudophobia. I have lizard skin. I'm a vampire, so I don't show up in pictures anyways. Your badgering has really killed the mood.
When someone is pressuring you to do something you don't want to, how many ways can you say no before they get the message? Let us know at that'snotcool.com. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
You.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again. Nobody rock a party better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again. Nobody rock a party better than me.
Alrighty then, Funkhauser. Before I go on to prove my theory that illiteracy causes homicide vis-a-vis Baltimore, let's get into some more of the events of today in our segment, My Witness News. What else is going on in the world?
We were going to think about that average American male's body compared to
those that's right. Thank you very much for picking up the pieces that I scattered all over the place before the break. Yes, so this was a guy, an artist. Where'd it go? No, seriously, where'd it go? Where's my information on this? This artist. Oh, yeah, here we are. Sometimes the coffee just doesn't work. You know what it is? They're trying to conserve energy in the building today. F it. You know that whole expression, don't let them see you sweat? That works good when it's a metaphor. When you're literally sweating bullets in the studio because they're trying to preserve energy so you don't get blacked out and lose power and all the stations go to generator and it's this whole big mess. They've, regulated the air conditioning here, and usually it's uncomfortably hot in this studio. But I got this email from the head of engineering here being like, just so you know, we're going to be regulating air conditioning to the point where it's going to be somewhat uncomfortable in the studios. And it's usually somewhat uncomfortable in the studios. Now I feel like Adrian Cronauer, Robin Williams in Good Morning Vietnam doing radio in Cambodia, sweating bullets. It's so uncomfortably hot in here. And I know the expression is never let them see you sweat. But like I said, when you're literally sweating, I figure I should let you know that... well, as you listen to this, making gravy in my shorts. Go on. What about this artist in the average American male?
That's
refresh
gross.
us, Funkhauser. Well,
an artist has made a digital
rendering
of...
You know what? It might be a little gross, but you know what it is? You know what it is, Funkhauser?
What is it?
Real radio.
Sure.
Real radio.
I got to make that just like the best button real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, for those that don't know, we are starting at our brand new affiliate, Real Radio 104.1 in Orlando, Florida on the 31st. 104.1. I love that one. That one's got the Seinfeldian bass line in it, and we couldn't be more excited. And thank you to Jack Bradshaw, the program director over there, who suffered from a tremendous lapse in judgment and decided to make us part of the lineup over there. So go on, Funkhauser.
He was quoted
the average
in
American
saying,
male.
The average American male's body. An artist has made a digital rendering of the average American male's body compared to those of men in other countries.
So if you picture in your mind's eye the average American man, how does it stack up to people in the rest of the world? What do you think, Funkhauser?
I probably look at myself and you, because we look pretty much average, don't we?
We do?
Yeah. Well, we got the dad bod going. And
what do you mean we?
Well, at least me.
No, no, you know what? Man, ever since I clawed my way to middle management in corporate America, ever since I became part of the programming staff around here, you should have seen me a year ago before I accepted this gig. Ripped, toned, super athlete, shredded, just lifting and pressing phenomenal amounts of weight in the gym. Not because I was one of those gym rat dudes at all, but because my shrink was like, hey, I can either medicate you or you can get into the gym. It's got to be one or the other. So I got into the gym and I started I like to see progress in anything that I do. So I wound up, training kind of sort of hardcore and getting kind of buff, toned, ripped, shredded, all of the above, which was not on purpose. And I used to make an effort to cover it up because I noticed when you went out to radio station gigs, meathead guys would come up to you and start talking to you about what you did in the gym.
Do you even lift, bro? Looks like you lift, bro.
The moment I started getting bigger, it was weird. In my 20s, as a teenager and in my 20s, I could work out constantly. And I would get stronger, but I would never see a difference in my body. Not at all. Once I hit 30, all I had to do was look at a dumbbell, and I got big. And it was explained to me by somebody that knows something about these things, that's muscle maturity as you hit a certain age in your 30s, apparently, and up to your mid to late 40s. your body really responds very dramatically to exercise in a way that maybe it didn't in your 20s. So, like, I got really big really fast. And the moment I got big, I noticed, like, meathead dudes would come up to me, ask me what I was eating, what, sort of exercise I was doing in the gym. And then some other meathead dudes would be like, I could take you. I was like, I'm really not interested in any of this. I'm trying to regulate my mind through my shrink's orders. So I used to actually, like, cover it up. But I was like this vaguely rip-toned super athlete there for a portion of my life. The moment I accepted a job in middle management, I sleep about 4 hours a night, and I don't know, apparently lack of sleep causes that cortisol stuff, that stress hormone that essentially makes you, gives you a dad bod, whether you want one or not. But yeah, oh God, as my career's trajectory has moved upwards, it has been a physical slippery slope for me. And now today, especially when the AC is off, I'm actually waddling and sweating my way through work. So, yeah, I'll take the dad bod thing. Yeah, got to deal with it. As it turns out, the American body, when you compare it to the rest of the world, according to this digital rendering of the average American male, the American body is way fatter and way less toned than people all over the rest of the creation. But more infinitely better at things like double fisting Cheetos and playing Guitar Hero. So there's that. Go on.
America! An Arizona man was fired after tipping strippers over 2,000 times with the company credit card.
But in happy news, he's just been appointed a new head of the Secret Service. Can you tip strippers with a credit card? Is that a thing?
I guess if you have a good enough credit card.
I always thought it was sort of like a cash-only situation at strip clubs. I don't know. I've never been a stripper tipper, so to speak. Like, I've been in lots of strip clubs, but most of it is in some sort of professional capacity. And, there's been times where...
strip clubs, professional capacity. I like those words together.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny because, like, especially with my work in Houston, like at the Buzz, when I was going out and doing sort of like radio station gigs, I remember thinking to myself, I was like, I'm trying to remember the last time I hosted an event where there wasn't a pole in the center of the room.
Jamming on the one like Theo Huxtable. Days like this when I feel untouchable. I try and make up for all the wrongs I did by living my life like a Cosby kid. Jam, jam, jam.
iHeartRadio shines the spotlight on Van Morrison.
In 1968, Van released arguably the best album of his career, entitled Astral Weeks, noted for its poetic complexity incorporating folk-styled jazz. It was a success on all levels except its commercial response.
Can I just have one more dance with you, my love? Can I just make some more romance with you, my love?
In contrast, Morrison's 1970 optimistic follow-up, Moondance, not only catapulted the singer's popularity, but finally received public acclaim. From Moondance's release in 1970 onward, Morrison's records were said to stylize a more celebratory tone due to his recent marriage to Janet Planet and their relocation to California.
Come on out and dance. Oh, come on out and make romance. Yes, indeed. Come on out and dance. Come on out, make romance.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Van Morrison and all your favorite artists. And now, this week's Rock Almanac.
The movie Rock and Roll High School, featuring the Ramones, opened in theaters this week in 1979. 1981, John Lennon's killer, Mark David Chapman, was sentenced to 20 years to life. Also in 81, the Rolling Stones released the Tattoo You album. In 1989, Guns N' Roses' Izzy Stradlin was arrested for public disturbance after he urinated on the floor, verbally abused a stewardess, and smoked during a flight. A perfect trifecta. Pearl Jam released their debut, 10, August 27, 1991. 1992, U2 became the second musical performer, after Billy Joel, to play Yankee Stadium. In 1994, Robert Plant and Jimmy Page reunited in London to record their MTV Unplugged show, which they called Unleaded.
That's your look back at this week's Rock Almanac.
Now, someone who everybody wants to punch in the face. AD on the radio.
Alrighty then, Funkhauser. We'll discuss illiteracy and homicide and how the two are related in just a little bit. And I'll prove to you that education really is a cure-all for the vast majority of the ills that ail America and indeed the world shortly after we finish up what remains of the news. What is going on in the world? What else?
Hold on. My stuff's going away. It's one of those weird days today, isn't it?
Are you having rolling brownouts in Hollywood? Like, is that the whole thing? Because, like, it's death-defyingly hot in California, and California is like, we know you pay taxes, but no electricity for you!
Yeah, sort of. I have air conditioning, though, so Gwyneth Paltrow is backing away from the term conscious uncoupling.
Oh, yeah, when she was breaking up with Chris Martin, lead singer of Coldplay, they called it a conscious uncoupling. And people found that to be an obnoxious term. So I guess Gwyneth Paltrow is now distancing herself from it. Gwyneth Paltrow is backing away from the term conscious uncoupling. In other words, even Gwyneth Paltrow is annoyed by Gwyneth Paltrow at this stage in the game. Go on.
Some news about me now. Caitlyn Jenner says her masculine voice drives her nuts.
Caitlyn Jenner says her masculine voice drives her nuts. Actually, I think Caitlyn has that backwards. It's her nuts that drive her masculine voice.
Yeah, there's some correlation there. I just don't know what's going on.
All right, I'm not trying to be flippant, and I'm not trying to, because, you know, we want to be sort of... Look, the whole Caitlyn Jenner thing, I'm very torn, because I find Caitlyn Jenner to be an awful monstrosity of a person. Same way I found Bruce Jenner to be kind of an awful monstrosity of a narcissistic, fame-whoring person. This is not somebody who I admire. But the very real situation is that if you look at the suicide rates of people with relation to their gender identity and sexuality, think it's something like 4% of your average straight American population will attempt suicide. Like 4%. If you take a look at the similar stats of someone that's gay, that number jumps significantly. I think to something like 12%. I'm not entirely sure. The portion of the population of gay people that will try and commit suicide at some point is higher. It's like 12%. If you look at people that suffer from this idea that they are trapped in the body of someone who is the wrong sex, gender dysphoria is the technical term for it. But if you look at people that have gender dysphoria, transgender folks, the attempted suicide rate jumps up to a mind-boggling 42%, I believe it is. Now, like I said, I'm torn on the Caitlyn Jenner thing because Caitlyn Jenner is, like I said, I think she's a terrible person. But by making this part of her life very public and fame-whoring it the way people associated with the Kardashians are wont to do, shined a big light on an issue that, well, causes a lot of people to be in a very bad place in their lives. And, you know, it's pushed forward a dialogue of understanding and acceptance. People have been vilified for not being able to immediately contextualize it. That's trans hate. Meh. Well, just I called him, and he's only been a her for a day and a half, and like that's trans hate. Meh. Like I said, we need a moment to contextualize it. But the positive thing is that it is forced, albeit in a somewhat... It's forced a dialogue about the transgender experience in a way that is a little fast-moving. It's okay if you want equality right now, and you should have equality right now. But you need to give people a moment to assimilate. You need to give people a moment to understand. Not everybody has read the textbook. Not everybody has the handbook. Not everybody has seen all the episodes of the Caitlyn Jenner reality show. People need a moment to contextualize it, yes. But the great thing is that it's moved us forward into an age of understanding, of tolerance, that hopefully will take a bite out of the number of attempted suicides in the community of people that suffer from this thing, gender dysphoria, which, you know, people like, it's weird. It's a very, very, very rare thing statistically speaking, when you look at the population. So a lot of people straight up don't have a frame of reference for it. So it's going to take some time, but man, has this pushed it forward in a positive way. And we thank her for that, I suppose. I still think she's an awful person. Like, just not a good human being. And so, like, I'm not trying to be flippant at all when I say this, but you know how there's this whole sort of like vehicular homicide thing? The negligent homicide, I think, is what the potential thing that she might be getting locked up for is. If Caitlyn Jenner goes to jail, does she go to jail in a men or women's prison? Do you know, Funkhauser? Has there been any talk of that?
No. I mean, there has been a little bit of talk, but I mean, who really knows? I don't. Maybe they'll put Caitlyn in a co-ed thing.
Is there a co-ed? Are there co-ed prisons?
I'm not sure.
I can't. I don't know. Like,
I don't think he'll do any time, though. I mean, come on. I'm on house arrest.
Yeah, you know, Martha Stewart. If it happened to her, why not? You know, like, I mean, and who knows? Like, who really knows how it's going to play out? But, I mean, as much as stuff like this is forcing a dialogue in sort of like everyday community, I would imagine it would force a dialogue in prison communities. I mean, everybody's seen Orange is the New Black, but that's television, not real life. Like, you can't put Caitlyn Jenner in a men's prison, but, you know, how does the female population of a female prison feel about someone coming in that south of the equator is still a dude? You know, just in terms of the equipment they have going on there. I'm not saying that because I'm not taking away from the fact that Caitlyn identifies as a female. I'm just saying that, you know, if you are living in close quarters that you have no control over in prison, and it turns out that someone's still got, you know, that going on south of the equator, how does that affect you? I don't know. They dealt with it a little bit in Orange is the New Black, but like I said, that's television, not real life. So it'll be a very interesting one if she does go to jail, which I think we can probably agree that she's not. Baltimore homicides for the year now top New York City. Baltimore, 213 murders. New York City, 208. Now, in case you're not familiar with the stats and the population sizes of the two cities, bear in mind, Baltimore, 213 murders. New York City, 208. New York City has 13 times the population of Baltimore. Wow, just 208 murders in New York City? That's pretty good. When I lived in New York City, I would have assumed it was a lot more murdery than that. But yeah, that's just the way it is. Wow, fantastic. Good job, New York City. Not so much of a good job, Baltimore. I think this is why Stephanie Blake Rawlings and Marilyn Mosby and the rest of the politicians there would rather talk about the Freddie Gray case. The city is seeing a historic, and I mean historic, crime surge in Baltimore. New York, more than 8.4 million people. Baltimore, just 620,000. And yet, the smaller city actually has more homicides this year. Proportionally speaking, you know, if they were to have equal crime rates, New York City would probably have, do the math, Funkhauser. What's 200 times 13?
2,600.
Mm-hmm. Yep. If New York City, which has 208 murders this year, was keeping pace with Baltimore, who have 213 murders, New York City would have 2,600 lives taken this year so far. It's crazy. Baltimore's murder rate through August 19th, I think, was when this study was done. Astounding 34 people per 100,000. Chicago is on a quicker pace, too, with more than 299 homicides so far this year. After witnessing 426 last year, Washington, D.C. homicides are up 41% from last year. All of the American cities experiencing the homicide spike they've experienced increasingly severe tensions between their police forces and black residents. Now, there's people that are only too eager to paint this as a black-white thing, a racial thing. And let's be real here, the racial tension exists. I don't remember growing up with any kind of racial tension. I really don't. Racism wasn't even part of the conversation. I don't know when I noticed this idea of not being integrated, of people of different colors of skin keeping to themselves, not associating with one another, treating each other with mistrust. I don't know when that started to creep in. I certainly didn't notice any of it growing up. Maybe it's an American thing. I don't know. I grew up in England where you kind of feel like England's a bit more of a successfully integrated melting pot than America is. I thought it would be the opposite. When I was growing up in London, I think everybody just kind of felt like they're English or they're Europeans or what have you. Everybody kind of just chilled with one another. And then when I came over to America, I was expecting it even more so. And then I got to New York and I was like, wow, this is not the same as I was expecting. The Jews hang out with the Jews. The Italians hang out with the Italians. Black people hang out with black people. There's divisions within the Hispanic community in New York City, like Puerto Ricans and Dominicans and Mexicans do not seem to have a whole lot of time for one another. It's a weird one. But there are these raisings of tensions in these cities that are experiencing elevated homicide rates. And people will be very quick to paint that as a racial problem. But if you look a little deeper, Baltimore homicides being what they are, astronomically through the roof. There's one stat that a lot of people are leaving out. And that is, did you know that Baltimore has the lowest literacy rate in all of America? Lowest literacy rate in all of America. It goes back to that kid on the corner that I was talking about, that I used to pass on the way to work. I used to pass all sorts of beggars on the way to work, and I had that knee-jerk reaction of, get a job, I'm working, why can't you? But when I saw an 11-year-old kid do that, when I saw that an 11-year-old child had it linked up in his mind that if I want money, I got to stand on a corner, stick out my hand, and hope someone puts $1 in it, that's how he was growing up, that's when I was like, okay, this kid, that's all he knows. He probably only knows this 5-block radius. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess he doesn't have a car. He's not especially mobile. He doesn't get out a whole lot. And in education, more than giving you a baller job so you can get to earning after a glittering college career and breaking the cycle of poverty, yeah, it can do that. But more importantly, an education will give you, when done right, a sense of possibility. A kid with an education in this country, less likely to commit a violent crime. Less likely to commit a violent crime, less likely to hold up a convenience store. Less likely to try and think the only way they can get something is by taking it from someone else. An education will give you a sense that there's a whole world out there, and no matter who you are, what your circumstances are, that world can be yours. It's yours for the taking. An education for a kid on the other side of the world makes him less likely to strap a bomb to his chest. Education, my friend, will give us the sense of possibility to break the cycle of violent crimes in cities like Baltimore. It's a cliche, but it's become a cliche because it's true. Children are the future. Let's figure out how to do better by them.